Today we are going to be building an Instagram clone in HTML and CSS. So no JavaScript today. So this is basically like the makeup tutorials of programming. I would put the difficulty level of this at about a solid 3 or a 2 if you're brave. If you're pretty good at HTML and CSS, that you're at the point where you could be self-taught, but you could still stand to learn a few tips and tricks. You just want to know what options are available to you in those languages. Then you'll easily be able to follow along with this tutorial. So with that, let's jump straight into it. So before we even begin, I'm going to create this little section that looks like a fake cell phone. This is my folder that I'm going to be working in, Pixagram 2.0, where I've already got images and videos that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to create my HTML file called index.html and a little shorthand to get started. Pixagram 2.0, and let's not forget the meta tag for our viewport to make this visible on mobile. So does the order matter? I'm typing it anyway. Okay, so first things first, we will have a div, not with a class, but with an ID called main content. That's our little fake cell phone. So over here, I'm going to link a style sheet that I've not yet created that I'm going to call styles.css. So styles.css. And then just so we have something to test with, hello. Now let's open it up. Instagram 2.0. Hello. Nothing has happened so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the body a little gray background color so that we are able to and then our main content. Oh, why am I yelling? Div. Still semi upset apparently. Main content. I'm going to give that a width of 100% at a baseline on mobile, but then when it gets a little bit bigger, I will cap that width at 400 pixels, but I will give it a height of 100 vertical viewport. Let's see. All right, nothing so far to distinguish it. Let's make the background color white. You can kind of see over here that there's a little bit of a change. What I'm going to do is also give it a border, 1 pixel solid, a gray color. Okay, so just a gray color. And then in the body, I'm also going to take away that margin, yes. And then I want to center my little fake cell phone. So favorite, margin 0 auto. Et voila. We have our little fake cell phone. It took us less than a minute. It was not less than a minute. If you want to work without having to set up a server and you want automatic refresh while you code, then there is a meta tag that you can use that allows you to refresh based on the content that you set. In this case, I'm going to just let it refresh every 5 seconds. And then over here, I will write, oh, HTTP. Refresh over here. Okay, now that we've got everything set up, first we are going to look at the layout of the project. So we have a header. At the top, we have a navigation bar at the bottom, and then we have a scrollable section in between all that. So let's lay that out. Header, scrollable section, and nav bar. While this is still short, I'm just going to add a comment here that says in main content, so I don't get lost at any point in time. Now, in our header, we have two sections. We have our logo, and we have a section that I'm going to call actions, because that's a pattern that's repeated where you have multiple icons with spaces in between them. So for now, I'll just use text because we're going to fill this with ionicons in a second. But I already have my logo, which is just an image, pixogram logo. And it's in my images folder, and it's called logo underscore black dot png. So images / logo black.png. Wonderful. So here we are. Beautiful. Okay, so in our style, we're gonna get I can spell header and class logo and image. I'm going to make this, because it's in a div, I'm going to make it 50%. Oh, just 50%. The width is going to be 50%. And that's going to shrink down a little bit more later. Then for my header in general, what we have here are two sections with a space in between them. So I'm going to create a class that I'm going to call flex between, that I will apply to the header. And it's just a flex box where the content has space between and everything is aligned to the center. That's vertically aligned to the center. Horizontally, they have a space between them. So now if we go back here, first I'll apply the class flex between. Now if we go here, wonderful. We like what's going on. So I'm also going to just real quick around the header, I'm just going to pad it by like 10 pixels. So everybody has a little bit of space around from the edge. Now, these are the icons that I am going to be using. I've already opened them up, and for some reason it doesn't look really good on mobile, but we will copy the script here. This script is meant to be placed at the bottom of your body tag, next to the closing tag of the body. So I will make a little comment. I'll make a little comment for myself. What is going on? All right, so we've pasted our script at the bottom of our HTML file next to the closing body tag. Now we're back on the homepage of Ion Icons, and we are going to insert the icons one by one. Plus sign, heart sign. This is supposed to be a paper airplane. Okay, plus sign is here, right at the top. Then our heart. Copy that. And then a paper airplane for our messenger. Wonderful. And let's go here. And they're all huddled together. Cute. Very cute. First of all, I will actually give a class of, let me do this. I'll give a class of flex between so that they're all on the same line. And then I will make the icons. No, I think it's one icon. Ion icon is how you grab it. I will make it slightly bigger, and then I will add under actions here, we will always want a gap between the icons. So I'm going to grab that actions class and just add a gap of about 22 pixels. I've experimented with this a bit. It looks a bit spacious. 20 pixels. I think, so it's not too crazy. Yeah, and that's it. We are done with our header. I forgot to add my fave icon, which is this little guy right here. For those of you that don't know, I've already saved my fave icon in the images. You can transform any PNG image to a fave icon online. There are lots of converters. You just Google that. And we want to link, oh, hang tight. Yeah, that's it. I love all my shortcuts because you're not going to remember these. Fave icon images / fave icon.ico, and boom, we have it right there. All right, so the next thing that we are going to work on is our nav bar, which is going to be at the bottom. It has 4 icons: home, search, reels, shopping bag, and a profile picture shaped like a circle. So let's just grab icons here. I'm back on Ion icons. So we'll grab a home icon and copy that over into our nav section. I'll search for a search icon and copy that over. Next is the Reels icon. I'm going to use an icon called Film, which looks the closest to what I've seen on Instagram. And then a shopping bag. This looks like what I've seen on Instagram. And then I will open up an image tag. I'll use the Tech Gospels profile picture from Instagram, which looks like this, and it's already in my images folder. So it's in my images folder, and the name of the file, the techgospel-icon.png. And I'm going to add a class here called avatar, which we will use later. And alt text can just say profile image. So now let's view it first. And this is what it looks like right now. And let's start by styling the avatar. The avatar will basically be a round image. And I've already pre-processed every image that I need to be a square. So this is already the right dimensions for me. So width will be 35 pixels and height will also be 35 pixels, so that when I apply the border radius property as 50%, it will be a perfect circle. You can only achieve this if you have a perfectly square image. If, for instance, the width was 55, then you would have something that looks kind of like a lopsided egg. So you need the same width and height in order for you to get a perfect circle by applying border radius 50%. Now I'm going to create another class that I will call flex around. This is different from flex between because I'm going to create some space, equal space around each element as well. So display flex, justify the content to be space around this time, not space between, but we will still align the items in the center, and that is the horizontal line. They will be aligned along the center. And then I will apply that to my nav bar, flex around. And now it looks wonderful. It looks nicely spaced out. And that's it for our nav bar for now. All right, next, to finish off the basic structure of our page, the 3 sections that I mentioned at first, we are going to set the height of the middle section. I'm going to give it an ID called scroll box. This is our scrollable section. And then I'm going to come over here, and in order to calculate it, I have to set the height of the header and the nav bar. So scrolling up to the top, I'm going to give the header a height of 60 pixels. I'm going to do the same thing for the nav bar at the bottom, height 60 pixels. So everybody has a height that we are aware of. That's going to help me calculate what I need to give the middle section so that everything fills the screen and we don't need to scroll outside of this window. So in my scroll box, I'm going to set the height to a calculation. We'll use our calc function here in CSS. We'll take 100% of the viewport height, and then we will subtract the height of the header, including, don't forget that we added padding all around the header of 10 pixels. So the top and bottom padding adds up to 20 pixels. We're going to subtract that as well. And then we will subtract the height of the nav bar as well. Save that. And now we see that our middle section fills the whole screen. I'm just going to give you a border so you see. 1 pixel solid black. So you see that that is there. And then I'm going to make it scrollable. Overflow Y will give us a nice scroll. But you're not going to notice that until there's some content inside. But I'm noticing there's some scrolling happening with the body. So I'm going to come over here and just take that away. Overflow Y, so that's the Y axis. I'm going to set that to hidden because I don't want any scrolling on the outside. I only want scrolling on the inside here. So just to illustrate, I'm going to grab some lorem ipsum text and I'm going to copy paste it into, let me take the longest bit, copy paste that into our middle section to show you how it will look. P, I'm going to copy that, paste it about 3 times. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just to show you what I'm talking about. And now when we scroll, we see that the header and the nav bar at the bottom stay in place and we only scroll on this middle section here. So that's it. All right, so guys, now we are going to work on some stories. So let's clear out all these lorem ipsum paragraphs. And then I'm going to take this solid black away as well. And I'm going to create, so if we go back to our original, we see that inside our scroll box, we have a story section, a little line separating that, and then a series of posts. So let's start with the story section. A section with an ID of stories, plural. Inside of the section of stories, we will have in an individual story. So a story, and hold on. For my stories section, I'm going to give that border to the stories. Let's go back over here and save that first. And we see it has no height, so we're going to give it a height of about 90 pixels, and we are good to go. So our story will have an image. And I already have my images downloaded for my story section. I'm going to use the same picture that I used over here to start. Alt text will be tech. And wow, so wonderful how big that is. I'm going to give it a class avatar LG because it's slightly different from the one down here. The stories are a bit larger as avatars. So originally my avatar was just for a class avatar. But what I want to do is now target every element that has a class that begins with the word avatar is going to have this feature. Great. So we're already seeing it work. But then if you are a large avatar class, I'm just going to change your width to about 70 pixels and your height to 70 pixels. So it's a bit larger. Wonderful. So that's our large avatar. Then below that, I will have a little bit of text saying your story. And, you know, paragraph tags tend to be padded quite a bit. So I'm going to take the story class. And first of all, you may not notice this yet, but it's not necessarily centered, but I'm going to set the text to be aligned at the center. And right now, this story is taking up the whole space. So I'm going to give it, let me give it a border so you see what's going on. Give it a little red border. I don't want my stories to be that big, and I don't want the text to overflow from my main story section. So I'm going to make the paragraph have 0 margin. All right, so it's back up inside the story tag. And I think I can make that large avatar even a wee bit smaller. Let's just make it like 65 pixels. I think that's better. So now we're inside the box. And then we're going to make individual stories have a height of about 80 pixels. So it's slightly smaller than the height of our, you know, it doesn't have to be that small. We could just focus on the width at 80 pixels since we've already set. But you know what? In case somebody has a really long name, we definitely want to make sure that we have that width set. And the height is fine. We don't really need to set that unless I see a reason to set that in the future. So let's just copy paste that a couple times. And we're going to just change the name. So you see that, you know, it's all coming downward. So I'm going to add that stories should be displayed inline block. Right? Wonderful. But we want this effect here. Oop. Yeah. But we want this effect here where we scroll sideways instead of everything coming down to this bottom line. So what I'm going to do is in my entire story section, I'm going to say white space, no wrap. And what that does, I will illustrate. Okay, so for those that don't understand, here's what white space does. Normally, and this is the default setting, everything kind of flows downward. If you reach the end of a div, the text will wrap around or the elements will wrap around. But if you say no wrap, then everything stays on the same line, which is what we want in this instance. So using white space has kept everything on the same line, but we want to be able to scroll within this story section. We don't want to scroll the entire content section, which is what's going on right now. So we're going to say overflow X, because it's along the X axis, scroll. And then just in case something wants to spill over, we're going to hide the scroll on the Y axis. When we refresh, now we are scrolling in here and we're doing really well. I'm going to just I'm gonna make this even smaller because it still feels a bit large. And now I'm going to also remove these borders. I mean, we get it, right? So the next thing we want to do is get rid of this scroll bar, but still keep the scrolling functionality. So I had to research a little bit how to do that, but you have to target it in different ways for different browsers. Yeah. So there's a way you can hide scroll bars but keep functionality. So for Chrome, Safari, and Opera, and I'm in Brave, which is built on Chromium, so this works for it. You have a pseudo class, right? So I'm gonna go over here, stories. There's a pseudo class, WebKit scroll bar, display none. I'm just gonna keep a note here for myself in the future. It says this over here. And then for the rest, that's Internet Explorer, Edge, and Firefox. We will just use these commands. So now when I open it up and refresh, I can scroll, but I don't have to see that ugly line. And I could try opening it as well in other, when I, oh yeah, let me go. When I try opening it up in other browsers like Firefox, oh Firefox, why? This is supposed to work out. You've lied to me. W3 schools, why? Oh, never mind. It's fine. No need for a meltdown. So we can see that it's working in Firefox. Let's see. Safari. Same diff. Everything looks wonderful. Okay. So we're good. And then I don't have, of course, Internet Explorer here. So we've hidden the scroll bars successfully. I'm going to change the pictures so they're a little bit more dynamic, and then we'll be right back. All right, so I've added new pictures to the story avatars and text to represent the different pages, and obviously there's a problem. So some of the names are too long. What should happen? There are two things to consider in this situation. The first one is overflow. When something is too big for the box that it's in, by default, the overflow is visible. So it just spills over, which is what we have going on here. So if I show you, border, what's happening here, this is where the paragraph stops, but the text just keeps on going. So the first thing we want to do is hide any extra information. So we're going to set the overflow here of the text to hidden. But it's a bit of an abrupt stop when you do something like that, because people might just think, oh, the name of this page must just be that, which is not what it is. So the second thing to consider is text overflow, which is going to determine what happens when overflow is hidden. What happens to your text? How do you signal to the user that there's text that's hidden here? Do you just clip it, which is the default? Or do you show your ellipses, which is what we want in this situation? So I'm going to set text overflow to ellipses. Ooh, IS. So when we come over here, we have our little ellipses. All right, so speaking of text, I do not like our default text that we have here. So we're going to go to fonts.google.com. And I already selected the font that I like, and it remembered my choice from last time. But just so you guys can follow along in case you've never used Google Fonts, I am selecting Railway, this version of Railway. So what you're going to do is you'll just scroll down and you'll add the styles that you want. It's just the weights of the font that you want. I've added the regular 400 and I've added the semi-bold 600. I don't think we have any italic fonts. And then it'll pop up a little side window like this, and you just copy this text here and place it in the head of your HTML. I'll leave a comment for myself. And then I will apply this CSS rule to the entire body. So now when we go back, we see that everything is Railway. So for my story, I think it's a little bit too large. I'm gonna say font size. I'm not sure where it's at right now. Let me see what 18 pixels does. Yeah, it's less than that. 12. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm pleased with that. Yeah, something tiny. Wonderful. Fonts are selected. All right, so the next thing that we are going to work on is this circle around stories that have not yet been viewed. So I'm going to start with this one. We will come over here and create a div with a class called image wrapper and place our image inside that div. Over in our CSS file, story, I'm going to place a border around it just so you can see what's going on. All right, so that's our image wrapper. I will give it a background that's a linear gradient that starts from the left and moves to the right. It starts with the color orange and ends with the color red. And that's how it looks. Then I'm going to give the image wrapper a class of avatar LG so that it becomes rounded like the other one. Now let me show you something very interesting. Because we used this, shorthand here, it's expecting that every class that begins with the word avatar will apply this border radius. And because we place the class in the middle of this text, it's not recognizing it as a class that starts with avatar. So that tells me that this shorthand here is actually reading this whole thing as a string. Because once I place it in front, voila, it works. Fun fact for you. And then it's a bit off center now. So I'm going to come over to my image wrapper and I'm going to give it my trusty margin 0 auto so that it becomes centered within that original story div. Then I'm going to add a little bit of padding, let's say about 3 pixels, so that we can separate the image from this border. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to give the image itself a border of about 2 pixels, solid white. So it kind of looks like the image is separate. And right now it's a little bit off center. So to fix that, I'm going to once again add another class to this wrapper. I'm going to add our flex around class so that everything gets nice and centered. And so now we have our border around our image and the little space and our story, our profile picture. I forgot to remove this little border, so I'll do that now. And first I have to save. And that'll make this a little bit thinner. So I'm going to increase this padding to about 4 pixels so that exactly what we want. Now, next, I am going to add this little plus icon for our story. If you observe on Instagram, it has a little border around it that kind of makes it look like an invisible border. I will start by going over here to my first story, and I'll create a div of class add to story. Inside that div, I'm going to have a little icon. This is the icon that we need. And it's this rich blue color. So while you guys weren't looking, I snagged that color. And I'm going to come over here, add to story color. So that's the shade of blue that we're going to be working with. Looks like that. And actually, this is not an outline. This is meant to be a full-bodied, yes, perfect. So just so we can see what's going on, I will add my trusty border. 1 pixel solid red. Wonderful. So I want to position this within the story div however I want to. So I'm going to, first of all, it's too big. So I'm going to give it a width of about 20 pixels and a height of about 20 pixels. And then, let's see that change. So that's a more reasonable size. I'm going to make this ion icon font size 19 pixels. So it just fits snugly in there. You might not be able to see this, but right now it's not really centered inside the div. So instead of getting too crazy about it, it's magic, I tell you. Flex around. And so it's centered now. And then I'm going to make my add to story div absolute. When you make a property absolute, it becomes absolute to the entire page. The only exception to that is when its parent div is has a not display. Sweet Lord. Okay, so I'm going to make this the position of this absolute so that I can move it all around wherever I want it to be. And when you make a property absolute, it could just move anywhere you want it to be. If I say bottom 30 pixels, then it's over here, right? But we don't want it absolute to this entire block. What we want is for it to be absolute within this story. In order to make that happen, I have to go to my story div and give it a relative position so that this add to story div will be absolute only relative to my story div. So now I'm going to position it from the top about 45 pixels down, and from the left about 50 pixels. So that'll be 45 pixels this way and 50 pixels this way. So hang on. Position. Position. All right. Wonderful. And then the reason I have this div behind is so it can act like similarly to what I did here. So we can have a white border around it. So I'm going to give the background color white. Awesome. And then I'm going to make my border radius 50% is another magic bullet. So awesome. Wow. Yep. That is it. We are done. I remove that solid red and we are good to go. All right, now we are done with our story. the last thing we're going to do is add a little thin gray line as a separator. I'm going to go to the stories div, and at the bottom I will add a border, 1 pixel solid triple E. Just a quick tip for hex colors, they actually represent RGB values, right? So triple E is the same as that, right? 6 E's. But there's a shorthand where you could just say triple E and it'll understand, okay, E for everything. E for everything. And if you have the same letter throughout or the same pattern throughout, like what we had up here, fa, 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 then it's going to be gray because you're saying every single RGB value is equal to the other, which produces a gray. So the closer you are to FFF, which is white, or 000, which is black, that determines how light or how dark your gray color is. All right, guys, time for the moment that we have been waiting for. We are going to design our first post. So let's get over here. It's going to be inside our scroll box. We are done with our stories. I'm going to mark that using a comment. And stories. Oh. And stories. And then I'm going to create a div with a class that I'll call post so I can keep track of what's going on. I'm going to say start post 1 and end post 1. And I'll also keep track of where my scroll box ends. Okay, so first we have a little section with a space between where we've got an avatar and a bold title and that icon. So I'm going to call this part my post header. And inside a div, doesn't necessarily need a class, I don't think. I'm going to have an avatar. And the image will be my Instagram profile picture. And let me go back over here so we can see what we're doing. That's what we've got so far. And a bold tag that contains my name. Awesome. Perfect. What I'm going to do here is, let me just say, but I don't want that, right? That's not the only thing that's going to be inside my post header. I'm going to also apply the flex between class to my post header. And over here, I'm going to grab, I'm just going to scroll because I don't know what they call it. Ellipses, vertical outline. Yeah. I'm going to add that icon to the end. Perfect. I only used flex between here for this image and the text so they could be centered with each other. There's a million ways you could do that, but since I already have my own class, I'll just leave it that way. So I'm going to come down here, and inside my post class, I'm going to make it so that flex between has padding around it of about 10 pixels. But maybe I don't want to make that a rule the whole time. So let me redo that. I'm just going to make it so that this post header has padding around it of 15 pixels. And then inside my post header, for this bold class, I'm going to make it so that the padding on the left is about 10 pixels. So it's separated from the avatar, and that's us done with the header portion. And then in general, you're going to find that the bold elements are usually clickable. So I'm going to set the cursor to a pointer whenever it's a bold element. And I think here we don't want an outline because it's not an outline on Instagram. So I'm going to take that out. And now we're done. Okay, next we are going to work on the post body where we have either an image or a video. We'll start by using an image. So we'll come over here. I already have my images downloaded. I'm going to use this picture. What is that? Hello.png. Okay. So after my post header, I'm going to have a div called post body. Inside here, I'm just going to add an image. And it's in my images folder, and it's called hello.png, alt text, hello world, woman waving. Wow, so great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the post body class and make it so that the max width of the image is 100%. I don't care as much about the height. I just care that the entire width fits within my cell phone. And we're going to experience the same thing for video. So I'm just going to go ahead and style that now because we'll do that in a second. That's it for my post body. Below that, I have another space between situation going on here and actions. So below my post body, I'm going to come up with, oh, not data, div, post actions. And I'm also going to give it that good old flex between. Here I have a div class actions because we've already done that up here, right? So we want a heart, a chat bubble, and this is supposed to be, once again, a paper airplane. So heart. Okay. Chat bubble. On Instagram, it's round, so we're going to use a round one. And a paper airplane. Come back over here. Looks good. But I've noticed if you look over in the heart here, it looks a little smaller than the rest of the things. I don't know what's going on with that. So I'm going to give it a class that I call Big Heart because I have a big heart. And Big Heart will have a font size of, let's say, 28 pixels. Yeah, I think that looks better. I can even make it 29 pixels. Great. And then I'm also gonna fix between over here, so they're all aligned properly. Then after my actions, I have one more icon, which is my bookmarks icon. And I prefer this one, so I'm going to use that. Great. So for my post actions, I'm going to add some padding around that of 10 pixels. Wonderful. So that's it for our post actions. So I thought it'd be nice to give you a taste of what it would look like when someone has actually already liked a post or bookmarked a post. I think at this point in time, we can go ahead and kill this auto refresh. It's just making it blink too often. So if someone likes a post, it's no longer going to be an outline, for one, but then it's also going to be red. So I'm going to create a class that I call red. And my red class would just make the color of whatever is red, red. And it looks so great. It's satisfying, even though you didn't do anything. They really did well on the psychology of this design. And then same thing for the bookmarks. Bookmarks are usually black. And that's it. That's how easy it is to like a post. All right, so the next part is going to be all these actions. So I'll start with the likes, but all of these are going to be grouped in the same little section. Oh my. So after our post actions, I'm going to come up with a div that I will call caption, etc. And first we will have a line, just bold, that says, let's say 120 likes, right? And then I'm going to make, for caption, etc., I'm just going to add a default padding of nothing above, but on the sides, 10 pixels. Great. Then below our likes, we have the name of the account, Tech Gospel, and the caption, Hello World. And of course, there's too much space. I'm going to make it so that with caption, etc., the font size can be, let me see, 14 pixels or something smaller. Great. Then caption, etc. For paragraphs, I want the margin to be a bit smaller. Let's say 4 pixels on top and 0 on the side. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so name and this, and then you can also put a hashtag if you wanted to. So let's say span class hashtag. I feel like I should just have a class that's called blue. Where did I save my rich blue? Did I not save it? Add to story icon. So since this is the last time I'll use it, we'll just leave it like that. What would my hashtag be? Programming. Let's look at that. Great. Then view one comment, view the number of comments that are there. That can be another. And then I'm going to create something, class light text. So I just have like a default gray color, let's say 777. Yeah, looks good. Then I could even make it lighter. Yeah, I think that's okay. So we have the number of comments, and sometimes you also have, like, if you look on Instagram, I don't have it in my original version, but if you look on Instagram, you may also see like a certain comment being highlighted. So let's try to add something like that. So you'll see like the name of the commenter. I'm going to go with my church. My church loves me. And throw that in there. Good work. Thanks, guys. And then below that, you'll have an option to add your own comment. So you have an option to add your own comment, and then these little emojis. So this is another space between situation. I'm going to make this a div. Flex between, not space between. And before that, a div. where I have an image. So I have an image of my own profile picture, which is going to be an avatar, but this time around, it's going to be small. So I'm going to come over here and set the height to like, let's say 20 pixels. I think, oh, that's very tiny. Let's make it slightly bigger. Yeah, I think that's good. And feels like this one should have a little more space on the top and the bottom. Ooh. Padding on the top, let's say 4 pixels. 0 on the sides. Still too small. Let's give it that 10 that we usually like. I was wondering what was going on. I hadn't saved my HTML. All right, let's go back to 4 and see what happens. Great. Okay, so add comment has a little more space. Right after the picture, we're going to have text that says add a comment, and it's going to be light text as well. Let's see how that looks. Add a comment. Flex between. You guys just hang out together. Great. For this add comment, I'm gonna give my paragraph a little bit of padding on the left. If I were doing this in SAS, all these like spaces and things of that nature would be variables. I could have variables in CSS as well, actually. I don't know why I didn't do that this time around. I think it's just stream of consciousness coding. Next time I'll do variables. I'm sure somebody is annoyed by how many things I'm writing. Just plain pixels and numbers. Okay, so that looks good. And then on the opposite side of that, we have some emojis. I'm literally just going to copy paste a heart, this thing and that thing, and call it a day. Red heart emoji. And literally copy that heart. And then hands up emoji. Where is that? What is that one called? It's like the hands raised up. What are these? Ridiculous emoji. Thank you. And then, what was the other one? Oh no, I think that one was an icon. Right? It was this icon. Oh. Let's see what it looks like right now. It's gonna look really awkward at first. Oh, it's not that bad. Only this guy looks awkward. So I'm gonna give it light text class. And then emojis. And I'm gonna make the ion icon have a really small font size. Let's try something like 12 pixels and see. Oh, very tiny. 14, 16. I accept. Now, flex between. Oh, you guys. Let's do this. Emojis get a little gap of, let's say, like 5 pixels. All right, we've won. And cursor will be a pointer because you'll click on them. All right, and I think that is it. Nope, the time it was posted. Let's do that. I'm gonna use the small tag. Where am I here? I'm still inside caption, etc. Great. Small. Let's just say 3 hours ago. 3 hours. 3 hours ago. Class light text. Great. I think that looks good. I'm pleased. I'm happy. Our post is done. So I'm going to copy paste this a couple times and just change the name of the poster and different things like that. And then from there, we will do videos. Hold on. I think this guy's a little bit too big. So let's just say now we're done. Yeah. All right, so I have copy pasted this post and just changed the names and the icons. So for the second one, we're going to, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add a little bit of space in between each post. So do I have? Oh, that's everything. I've not styled a post so far. Padding or margin? Let's see. Bottom. Let's say 20 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I think that's good. It's good enough space. I could make that 25, I think. I am pleased with that. Great. Okay, so let's try our hand at a video. I have 2 videos in here. One is just a regular, landscape video. And then the other one is like a real format type of video. So Atom can't read my video. Okay, so we'll use the ocean one first. I designed this some time ago. Thank God for these guys, right? It's always good to comment your way through so you don't get lost if you have a big file. So in our post body, instead of an image, we are going to have, there's a lot going on right now. We're going to have a video. It's almost 1 in the morning right now. That's probably why I'm doing weird things. Okay. So ocean, right? .mp4. And I've also screenshot the first section of that. Ocean preview .png. And for autoplay, sometimes it doesn't work unless you specify that the video is muted. I guess browsers are trying to be more considerate of people now. So I think it's taking a second to load. Oh no, it's not taking a second to load. It's the wrong link. Let's try that again. Wonderful. And there it is in all its glory. So I would have added you know, the mute versus unmute option, but that would bleed a little bit into JavaScript. So for now, you just get to look at the ocean moving around. Then, you know, it doesn't really make a difference, like I said, the height of the piece of media, as long as the width all fits within, you know, the frame that you've created for yourself. I'm going to get rid of this image and insert my video titled nature.mp4, which is in my videos folder. And videos / nature preview.png. And it's already set to autoplay. It's exactly the same as the last one. I'm just basically showing you that the height doesn't matter as long as it's all within the right width. So this is what a reel would look like. Okay, so a couple more things to clean up before I really call it a night. I'm going to make these videos loop by adding that little, this is the third one, so let's go up to the second one. That little attribute. Where's my second video? I feel lost. There. Let me refresh. And so now it should be looping instead of just stopping when it's done. And then I forgot to get rid of this little scroll bar. So it's going to be the same idea as what we did when we were working on our story section. I'm just going to copy paste this. And let's find our scroll box. Okay. And we're going to hide the scroll bar. And then we'll get our pseudo class for WebKit to hide it on Chrome and Brave. Refresh that page. And voila, it's still scrolling without any scroll bar appearing. So in the next part of the Pixagram series, I'm going to add some JavaScript. I have a lot of plans for Pixagram. I would like to try this in Angular. I would like to try it in Ionic and even Nest.js to build out the back end. So make sure you subscribe to this channel to continue following along with the series. Follow me on Instagram, the real one. I have an account there. My name is Bookie and you are fearfully and wonderfully coded. See you next time.